I seem to have gotten the hang of it. So this video should just be on school-based physical therapy. In other words, physical therapy provided to students in the K through 12 public school system. And the children who receive this, again, we're going to go through common types of diagnoses you may see, not so much on interventions because we'll talk about that more with pathologies, and then we'll talk just about what's unique about the school system environment, particularly the goals of physical therapy. Students who qualify as handicapped persons, in other words, they have to have either cognitive or physical problems that impede their ability to carry out the normal activities of a child in a school setting. Some of the common diagnoses that you might see: cerebral palsy, Down syndrome again, just general developmental delay. If any of you have worked with kids or you've been in the school system, you may be aware that a lot of the children who come to the school system they may have pretty severe problems, but they don't actually have a specific diagnosis for it. Now, some of this is due to chromosomal abnormalities or chromosomal conditions that maybe even haven't been really identified or diagnosed yet. So a whole variety of things. We mentioned fetal alcohol syndrome before. These would be some examples of kids that you'd see in a school-based setting. Now, the whole purpose, this is a really unique environment because the whole purpose of physical therapy in the school setting is just to allow the student, the child, to participate in school, to be educated. And in that case, or in this instance, physical therapy isn't the primary reason. It's very much a supportive service, with the goal always being focused on what the child needs to be able to do to participate at school. So, for example, when my daughter was in first grade, she fractured her tibia and she was non-weight bearing for about 8 weeks. She did not receive school-based physical therapy to improve her accessibility or to improve her transferability. You know, that was considered a short-term medical condition, and it certainly didn't qualify for school-based physical therapy services. And when you're thinking about allowing the student to be able to access and participate in educational activities with their peers, the other part of that is we want to make sure that they can do that in what's termed the least restrictive environment. So we want them to do it in as natural a way as possible, in a way that's as similar to their peers as we possibly can. So in order to be part of the team, every student has an individualized education plan or program, and that's called the IEP. And that is developed by really anyone who needs to interact with a child. And so you can see here in the team, of course, is the student and the parents, regular education teachers as well as special education teachers, a few other people, and then, of course, here is us, other. We are others with knowledge or special expertise about the child, and that's where therapy services, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy would come in. This is just a little wordgram, and it shows you when you're talking about IEP things, you know, child, parent, team, education, services, special student, educational disability. So this is an annual plan that's developed, and it will state the current status of the student, their current functional and as well as academic level. It's going to lay out a plan for the entire school year where the child is hoping to be both academically and again physically, if that's appropriate, by the end of the year. So these are, talk about long-term goals. I mean, these are students who aren't going to change quickly, and so they're setting out goals from the beginning to the end of the school year. As the child progresses through the school system, then each successive IEP, one is done every year, or it might be updated if there are big changes, is going to document progress that the child has made toward those goals. And it's going to describe accommodations, it's going to talk about how often the student's going to receive physical therapy and other services, what those services might include. So it's a very detailed, pretty big document. And again, if any of you have been in the school system, you may have had an opportunity to attend an IEP meeting, a planning meeting. And if you're in the school system for your full-time clinicals, you definitely want to be part of that so you understand how that works. Finally, as the child continues to progress through the public school system, as they get into high school, then the IEP is going to start reflecting what the child's transition is going to be into a post-secondary or a environment. In other words, what are they going to do after high school? So it's really very comprehensive, and it's meant to help them move through the educational system as well as possible. So within physical therapy, we certainly work on just general gross motor skill development, and you can see in this picture on the right where he's climbing up onto a piece of playground equipment. That would be a very typical way to take the child out into the environment they would participate in. These are very typical kid activities to be able to do, requiring strength and balance and coordination. They may also be working on functional skills like ambulation, transfers, posture, stability. So if you look at the girl in the bottom left corner where she's working on sitting, she's working on sitting with her arms above her head. Well, when do kids sit in school and put their arms above their head? Right, when they raise their hand when they're sitting at their desk. So it would be a very typical normal activity to work on with a child. And above there you see a child in a standing frame, again using a book, might be interacting up at the board, interacting with their schoolmates or whatever. But if there's any specialized equipment like this, the physical therapist assistant team may recommend that equipment. They may be responsible for training the teachers or the aides within the classroom how to use it. So a lot of different roles that the physical therapist may play. All of those roles, though, are designed and focused on what will foster and support the child's educational needs and interaction needs with their peers in a school environment. This is a pretty typical type of equipment you might see in a school-based setting. You can see hanging on the wall a variety of things, different kinds of bikes and things like that. This type of swing is pretty typical, where it's suspended from the ceiling and they can work on balance, coordination, vestibular input. I know you talked about sensory integration issues last semester, so I think you probably remember a lot of vestibular things that are done from a vestibular standpoint to work on sensory integration. You can see here he's sitting on the swing and playing shooting baskets. Looks like that one's going to go in. Obviously he has a peer here with him, so I don't know, he might be playing different level, but standing on the mini tramp and working on that. So pretty typical type of toys and environment that you would see. Now on the other hand, this may also be a typical environment. Some schools don't have a dedicated place for physical therapy to take place. So they're in the hallway, pretty glamorous setting right outside the bathrooms, but you'll see physical therapists kind of working with kids in the halls, in the gym, and maybe in a dedicated physical therapy area, and it really varies from school to school. So that's really all I have on the school-based physical therapy, focusing on how this role is very different. The role of physical therapy is supportive. The focus is on supporting the child's ability to participate in educational and peer activities in the least restrictive environment, that we participate in developing an individualized education plan, and that the focus again is on moving the child through the educational system. All right, that brings us to the end of videos on physical therapy in the pediatric settings. So hope you enjoyed them, and we will be moving on to other videos shortly. Thank you.